If you're willing to pay top dollar in the used market or the gray market, good for you. But for us regular folks who actually enjoy Rolex for what they are, watches, not a statement, not a fashion statement, not a financial statement, those of us who actually enjoy Rolex for their design, for their history, for their brand, it's difficult for us to actually get our hands on one. But fortunately for you and for me, and if you clicked on this video, I have found a Datejust alternative that has about 80% of the looks, but for 25% of the price. And yes, you've guessed it, it's a Tudor. Rolex fanboys love to call Tudor the poor man's Rolex, but to me, Rolex is more like the markup Tudor. Now, hear me out. We know modern Tudors are produced in their own factories with their own movements, recently in-house, and their design elements. In fact, modern Tudors actually look nothing like modern Rolexes. But then again, we're not here to talk about modern Tudors. Vintage Tudors is where the fun's at. Tudor was founded in 1926, only 21 years after the birth of Rolex. Tudor's target audience was the affordable market from the get-go. And throughout history, it's really no secret that Tudor heavily relied on Rolex parts, their cases, their crowns, their technology. But instead of it being called Rolex on the dial, it was just called Tudor instead. And of course, the movement wasn't Rolex. For a long time, though, probably until the early 2000s, you can call Tudor an ETA movement in a Rolex case because a lot of the times they're practically the same watch. There's actually a whole lineup of Tudor Prince dates that are genuinely just direct homages of the Rolex Oyster Perpetual. Let's just go through a couple of examples. We'll look at a Rolex and then compare it to a much more affordable Tudor. For our first case study, we have the Rolex Datejust 1601/3 for about 10 grand used. And on the right, we have the Tudor Prince Date 74033 for about 25% of the price. Now, they look pretty similar to me, but how can the price be so different? For our second case study, we'll once again compare a more expensive Rolex to a less expensive Tudor. We have the Rolex Datejust 1601 on the left and the Tudor Oyster Date 72043 on the right. Again, the price disparity is less intense for this one, but again, they look pretty similar to me. The example that we're looking at today, the Tudor Prince Date 74000N, which is my version of an affordable Datejust alternative. Look, I'm going to preface it now. I'm going to shower the Tudor with praise because I absolutely love it. It's an insane value proposition. You're getting basically almost a watch that's 4 times the price in the older brother, that's the Datejust, but for a fraction of the cost. The Oyster Case is one of my favorite case designs. It has a utilitarian magic from the 1900s that clearly stood the test of time. There's generally nothing special about the Oyster Case or its finishing. It's as plain as you can get for a luxury watch, but it just works, and it works quite perfectly. It's also rather oxymoronic that it's probably the best looking boring case in the world. Now bear in mind the Oyster Case was designed for rugged everyday wear by both the white and blue collar workers in the past. The finishing on the Tudor Prince Date is nothing spectacular. Like, I'm being serious. It's actually quite a basically finished watch. It's what you'd expect from an older vintage Tudor. The Joe Lux are a nice touch. And I do love the Oyster screw-in case back with the minimal text. I find that pretty clean. It's a charming little 34mm case. It's no Grand Seiko Zeratsu finishing. It's not even a Christopher Ward light catcher case for that matter. But the Oyster Case is a classic and is and will remain as an inspiration for a lot of watches created today and in the future. Can I also say the crown is the perfect size? It's so easy to grip and unscrew. I just love the Oyster Case. 34mm simplicity, nothing special, just a classic. I'd be lying if I said the dial wasn't what caught my eye when I first saw it pop up for sale a year ago. I immediately thought to myself, the Roman numeral layout is gorgeous, and I've only ever seen this particular design work on a Rolex Datejust. And I'm not really close to dropping 10 grand on one, so how about 25% of the price on this Tudor Prince Date? I sat on that decision for about 2 days and I ultimately took the plunge, and best decision I've ever made. The lacquered white dial is just stunning. Paired with the applied Roman numerals, in certain angles it almost disappears into the lacquered background. Now it does make it hard to read under direct sunlight at times, but I suppose that's the beauty of it. The Tudor shield at the 12, again, it's very similar to the Rolex crown at the 12 of the DJ. And the 3 o'clock is also replaced with a color matched date window with the classic magnifier, and we can't forget the classic stick hands that well, the Tudor shares with the Rolex. I mean, everything on this Tudor print state just screams Rolex Datejust homage. And I suppose that's a big reason why I did buy this print state, because it looks like a Rolex, probably close to 80%, aesthetically anyways, visually, not counting for movement or certain parts. But it's at about 25% of the cost. You're getting an 80% lookalike for about 25% of the cost. I think that's an amazing value proposition. The worst part is that Rolex fanboys can't even hate on this print state that much, because as much as it is an homage and it is copying the DJ look, it's not really contentious, because this could have easily been made in the same facility as the older brother, the DJ. And seriously, if you want a Datejust but not at the current prices, just go for a print state. There's so many variations of these. You could easily find one that's an homage to a specific Datejust you're after. And the best part is, if you go vintage enough, you might even end up with some print states that share Rolex parts. Like I said, markup Tudor. Rolex has the Jubilee, and the Tudor have their classic 5-link bracelet. Trust me, I've scoured the internet looking for the official name of this bracelet, and I couldn't come up with anything. Even on Tudor's website, they just call it the 5-link bracelet or the 7-link bracelet, so that's what we're going with. It's one of those vintage bracelets from Rolex and Tudor that's extremely comfortable, lightweight, well built, but not very substantial. The end links are hollow, the clasps aren't milled, it's stamped, and by today's standard, this bracelet would be considered quite cheap coming from a luxury brand like Tudor. But the jingly jangliness of it, the thinly stamped clasp along with the 6-hole micro adjustment, the flex from it being a 20-year-old watch, and it's exactly what I'm after. I love these old school bracelets that are well built, but not overly constructed to show off how advanced their bracelet technology is. It's just simple, it's classic, it's plain, but it's comfortable. More importantly, it suits the watch head. It doesn't draw attention away from the case or the dial, it supplements it. And that's the whole point of a good bracelet. Look, in terms of the movement, it's an ETA 2824. It's a common movement, it's a pragmatic movement, it's a workhorse, it's robust. Sure, you're not getting an in-house movement like you would in a Datejust, but I'd argue that the ETA 2824 actually fits the Tudor really well. It's one of those instances where it's a ETA in a Tudor case. You're paying, in a Rolex case, sorry, you're paying top dollar for a Rolex design, but you're not paying the top dollar to have it serviced every 4 or 5 years. You're servicing an ETA 2824. Any decent watchmaker with enough experience will be able to service the ETA for you, and it's not gonna cost you very much at all. For me, when I first got the print state, the crown was a little loose, so I had to take it to my watchmaker to get it serviced. It didn't cost me anything. But if it was an in-house Rolex movement, I'm afraid the story would have been a little different. The print state is easily my most worn watch of the past year. Yes, it is 34 mil, but to be honest, it wears more like a 36, and an extremely lightweight and comfortable one at that. And now this is a bold statement, but for my 6-inch wrist, having experienced close to around 200 watches, this is probably the most comfortable watch I've ever owned, bar none. How it sits on my 6-inch wrist, I can wear it loose, and it's lightweight enough that it can easily just move up and down my wrist and I'll barely even notice it. Whether it's a hot day, whether it's a cold day, if my wrist swells up, doesn't really matter. And the fact that it has 6 micro adjustment means that I'm guaranteed to find a perfect fit. And if not, I carry a pin in my wallet and I just adjust it throughout the day. It's also a strap monster, but I strictly keep mine on the 5-link bracelet because it does have the magical 19 mil lug width, so good luck. So there you have it. That's my pick for the best affordable alternative to the Rolex Datejust. And I'll tell you this now, there are going to be Rolex fanboys who are going to hate on Tudor, calling it the poor man's Rolex. But like I said, it's more like Rolex, at least compared to vintage Tudors, Rolex are more like markup Tudors. I mean, you're getting 80% aesthetically in terms of visual looks, similar, but at 25% of the cost. Sure, you're not getting a build quality that's of a Rolex or the movement, an in-house movement, but you're not missing that much by getting a Tudor print state. And next, funny story, I've had a few people come up to me saying, hey, that print state would be an amazing alternative to my Datejust, because I don't want to wear my Datejust all the time because it's a little older. It's from the 1970s, 1980s. And I want to baby it a bit more. So this Tudor print state that you have, I want to buy it from you because I want to use it as an everyday wear. And obviously I've rejected all of them because what a rare find my Prince Date is. And so there you go. Not all Rolex fanboys are actually going to hate on Tudor. Some of them actually appreciate Tudor, especially the Prince Date series, for what they are. They're affordable alternatives to the Rolex lineup. So that's my pick for the most affordable Datejust. Let me know what you think. Do you think the Prince Date can be classified as an homage, or do you think it's its own thing? Let me know if you have a better alternative for a Datejust, affordable one that is. Put it down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.